thank you very much first to LRM for two reasons. First, for the trust, to have the opportunity to deploy here our technology. And I would like to over-insist on the fact that it will be Europe first to be fully driverless in this kind of environment. So here it's not, it may look easy, it's an incredible challenge that we are facing here, and we're very proud of what we're achieving here. So thank you very much for your trust. And second, thank you for this conference, because those speeches we had here today were very interesting, with many questions. But now I have three challenges. The first, as a late afternoon speaker, I can't repeat what has been already said, so I can't use the presentation I prepared, for real. Second, I have to keep you awake after so many hours of preparation, and I'm going to share with you data, figures, and tech schemes, which make the second challenge even harder, so I will try. So I can skip the first 12 slides, I think, and I'm not going to go through my slides. I repeat what you said, because several speakers said it far better than I could do. I love the figures from the Ruto study, that within the combined scenario, top right, minus 93% in fleet, if we have autonomous vehicles in combination with large public transport. I love what one of the very first speakers said this morning, which was, we do not design cities for cars, but for citizens. And that a big chunk of the business case of autonomous vehicles is not only replacing drivers by a software. No, it's putting less vehicles on the streets and giving space back to pedestrians. That's very, very important. You also insisted on the lack of drivers, which makes this technology even more relevant. We have a lack of driver precisely at the moment where we need them for public transportation. So, thank you. I have skipped 2/3 of my presentation, which leads me to the last 3 slides. And first, I will need, again, 5 more minutes without the slides to try to keep you awake, because otherwise they are full of figures, and it will be a deadlock. Is the techno ready? And here, I'm not going to talk about Easy Mile, which will be also the 4th challenge. Is the techno ready? For use case like the one you see here, yes. We are good enough in terms of performance. It's what we have just seen in the survey. And we are good enough in terms of safety. And that's where I have to pause. What is good enough in terms of safety? And here, if you accept, I will take many steps back, because we're not the first industry to ask ourselves this question: what is safe enough? The railway industry, the aeronautics industry, decades ago, had to ask themselves this very same question: what is safe enough, and what set of rules do we have to define to make sure that any newcomers will be as safe as with what is required? Safety standards are not based on feelings or on poetry. They're based on one simple question, which is very rude. How many people can we kill per year without killing the industry? That's the question the railway and the aeronautics industry ask themselves. And they come back with the figures. It's the number of people killed per kilometers transported by an airplane or a train. And from that, they derive a set of norms that is extremely strict. If you think about the Chinese airplane, the AC-919, they started to develop these planes 20 years ago. It made its first flight in China 6 years ago. And it was the top priority at national level, with tens of thousands of people working on homologating this plane. They homologated 4 months ago, this plane. 6 years, tens of thousands of people on homologation, just making it as good as the international standards require it to be. And it's only homologated in China, not anywhere in the world. So now back to our industry. I will have my first slide in 3 minutes. What is good enough? What is safe enough for autonomous vehicles? Okay, how many Uber accidents can we afford as an industry before being banned everywhere on Earth? That's a very important question. And regulators around the world are working on precisely this topic. And there is also a second point of comparison. We heard two figures today. The first from the Waymo guy in the video, which was 1.3 million people dead on the street because of car accidents. And the second was 90%, it was in another presentation today, 92% of those accidents are due to human causes. Okay, so now we'll make together a small game to try to determine how good is a human driver. Because to be socially acceptable, we must at least be as good as a human driver. Can I please ask all the people who are just very close from this alley to stand up? So I need 20 people to stand up. Here, stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up. Thank you very much. So we have 2, 4, let's say 20 people. And those 20 people are professional bus drivers. And they are all working in Europe, and they drive 10 hours per day, on average, every single day of their life. The goal, ladies and gentlemen, you will have to guess, after how many years, on average, one of you will have a deadly accident. So I will climb up the ladder. When you think it's the right figure, that one of you has an accident that causes death, please sit down. Okay? Do you think that the first of you with an accident will be in the next 20 years, 80 years, 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, driving every single day, 10 hours, 700 years, 800 years, you are all wrong. 1,000 years, 1,200 years, the right answer is 1,500 years. On average, a bus driver has a deadly accident every 8 hours of operation. This is what is safe enough to say we are safer than a bus driver. So imagine, okay, you collect your data, 1,500 years. But to be statistically relevant, you have to drive 10 times that. So you drive 15,000 years. And you have 20 vehicles every day running. After 15,000 years, you can say, statistically, I'm safer than a human driver. So here we have a dead end. You will never prove that through statistics. And now I can start my first slides, which is, how do we prove that we are safe enough? Sorry, pop. It's 12 slides is long. So, you have to prove that through formal proof. It's mathematical proof. It's what aeronautics have done for decades, what railway has done for decades. But it has many implications. You must be good on all the blocks here: localization, perception, decision, execution. Localization, the shuttle that you see outside has 6 different independent localization means to always know centimeters with a centimetric precision where you are. Which means that, why is it so important? You want to cross an intersection with a traffic light. If you don't know where you are, maybe you are already crossed the traffic light. Too late. You are definitely under those safety standards. Perception. There is a very interesting presentation just afterwards on sensors. That's definitely one of the big challenges, to be good enough in the way you perceive the environment. We are already good enough in an environment where we share the road with pedestrians and bikes, and very limited number of cars with people from the spa who are trained to know that there is maybe a fully autonomous car sharing the road. We are not good enough to be in a highway or in a very dense city center. And I say we, it's not easy, it's the industry as a whole. No one can demonstrate this level of safety currently in a highly complex environment. In terms of decision, we need a calculator which has three dimensions. First, it must be safe, reliable enough. My famous 10 power 8. It's called ASIL-D, ISO 26262 for the poets in the room. Safe. Second, it must be powerful. You have this kind of calculators currently in the planes for the autopilots. But two issues. First, it costs a fortune. Second, it has a calculation power, which is not enough to consume any of the lidars you have on the top of our vehicles. So what we had to do in EasyMind was to develop in-house these calculators, these safety calculators. And actually, we are already working on the next generation of those safety calculators to be safe enough to go on the open road. It's safe enough to be here, in an ODD like the one we are developing here. It's not safe enough to go on open roads or on very, very specific use cases with no market for the moment. And the execution. Once I have taken the right decision, I must make sure that when I say, please turn right, it turns right. It's obvious, but it's all but obvious. And currently, in a classical vehicle, we have only a handful of components that has this level automotive grade safety layer, safety requirements. So, and same thing, it's okay if you drive at 20, if you drive at 80, changing a bit the set of rules. So it's a real challenge. Then it implies some techno choices. We have two sets of autonomous driving algorithms. The first is the deterministic algorithms that say, it's a long set of rules. If anything higher than 50 centimeters and larger than X centimeters comes in front of my vehicle, I stop. I give you an idea. At Easy Mile, we will stop if anything larger than 5 centimeters will go in front of the vehicle from the safety perspective. Why? 5 centimeters, it's the width of the leg of a kid. And I don't want to take any risk of hitting a kid. So 5 centimeters, that's very small. So long set of rules. The beauty of it is that you can demonstrate you can explain why you choose those rules, and you can demonstrate the safety of it, the way you coded it, all the process you respected, and you can demonstrate the famous 10 power 6, 7, 8. The trouble is that you drive like my granny, as you said, Tim, earlier this morning. Whereas with machine learning, you don't drive like a granny, but it's absolutely impossible to demonstrate any safety. It's a black box FX. So there are some very early research ongoing about the demonstrability of machine learning algorithms, but it's very, very light. Small Terhills, technological readiness levels. So all players use a combination of those two, this one for safety layers, this one for the more clever layer, that one that can anticipate, and when this one fails, this one takes the lead and generates a minimum risk maneuver, very often a stop. As you can imagine, this is this one that is currently limiting the level of performance. If we'd activate this one, and we do that at Easy Mile for some experimentations, we drive at 50 under the rain. That's beautiful. But it's impossible to withdraw the safety attendant on board because there is no more safety. Safety in the meaning of being able to cope with the safety standards that are socially and legally acceptable. So, LiDARs, maybe there will be a more detailed presentation just afterwards, just to say there are also some physics rules that cannot be broken. LiDARs, we love LiDARs in the AV industry because with limited processing of the data, you get a 3D picture. Whereas when you take some vision-based algorithms, there's lots of processing between the picture and the 3D view of the object. So we love LiDARs. And LiDARs, you don't care if it's day or if it's night. If it's snow, it's a bit a different story. The trouble with those layers is that the further you go, it's just trigonometry, the longer the distances between the two layers. So if I say that I need at least 3 layers to be able to say, I think it's a car, if I take a VLP 128, one of the most advanced LiDARs currently in the market, actually at 100 meters, I will hardly recognize any obstacle smaller than 2.7 meters. That explains, for example, why when you are LiDAR-based, you are authorized to drive on the highway at 60 kilometers per hour. Because if you drive faster than that, you need to look farther. And the farther you look, the smaller the density. So, to conclude, I have 30 seconds for my very last slide. What's the road ahead? The road ahead for me is just what you see through the window for the next years. It's Terhills, kind of Terhills-like ODD. It's where we can already deliver value. And once again, thank you very much for the figures you shared with us before. Definitely here, we are delivering value to the end users. We are delivering value to this marvelous site. And we are delivering value while respecting the right level of safety. And we still have to invest heavily on R&D to be able to do the same on far more complex ODD. And here I'm not talking about Easy Mile, but as the industry as a whole. Thank you.
Impressive. You were done at 14 minutes, 58 seconds, despite having to improvise 2/3 of your presentation. Totally worth that you came here from Toulouse for an impressive presentation like that. Thank you. I think I saw a hand in the corner of my eye somewhere here.
No, it's on me? Okay. Yeah, still presenting myself, Simon Collet, I work for PTO Tech, and I used your technology 2 years ago in Louvain-la-Neuve for the project, so congratulations for your technology. And one main question at that time was the responsibility, and it was really realistic because we tried to cross a traffic light intersection. It was probably one of the first case for you with that so much complicated traffic lights. And I remember that at the time we see that everything seemed okay. Everybody looks the other ones to say who takes the responsibility to go further, and it was to the PTO to make it, so the customer, the operator. So here, how do you manage the responsibility of driving or operating an autonomous shuttle without a safety driver inside?
And I will answer 2 questions within your question. First, I will also give some elements about the traffic light, okay, because it's a separate case which I think is very, very, very interesting. The whole purpose of the current regulation being validated either at German level, French level, European level, and sorry, I will just solely spoke about Europe framework, is to define exactly what you are talking about. Who is responsible of what? The idea is that as a techno supplier, we'll say my technology is good enough, safe enough for a given ODD, which a very detailed set of playgrounds where I say I can drive there. I can drive if I'm in an environment where the peak speed of the others is less than 40 kilometers per hour. I can drive if the minimum width of the road is 3 meters. I can drive if I'm not in the middle of a storm. Okay, so I describe that. If I'm within this ODD, I take the responsibility. It's also my responsibility as techno supplier to always check that I am in my ODD. If the storm is arriving, then I have trouble. It's my duty to say, okay, I have to stop. So it can be done by the technology, it can be done by processes. So here, for example, there is training for the supervisor who knows above which threshold of rain you should stop the operations. So, and there starts the sharing of responsibility between the techno supplier, who gives an ODD and a set of rules, and the one who is going to apply those rules, the operator. That's where the limit is. And now about the traffic light. And yeah, I have the time just to ask you about, if you authorize myself to ask you questions. Traffic light is a kind of an absolute nightmare. In terms of safety regulation, if you disrespect the traffic lights, the probability that you will regret what is going to happen just afterwards is definitely not 10 power minus 8. Okay, it's more 1 time after 20, it will be a catastrophe. So it's one of the use cases where there is no doubt that you have to be up to the railway standards in terms of safety. So basically, forget about machine learning. It will never be at the right level, never ever. Or you can also forget about most of what goes through classical connectivity. So it's a nightmare. And we have worked on that with Alstom, currently in Toulouse, the railway company, which is, by the way, a big part of their business is to create traffic light for trains. So they have the knowledge how to design a safe traffic light, which means traffic lights so that when it tells you I'm red, through V2I, it never makes a mistake. Never means less than 10 power 8, blah, 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 hours of operations. But it's a very, very complex issue. And we will need connected infrastructure, but we will need safe connected infrastructure. Otherwise, we will keep on having all the safety decisions at vehicle level, which was what you also were mentioning today.
More questions?
As I said in my presentation, we're rolling out 350 connected traffic lights. One of the services will be GLOSA, a green light optimum speed advisory. If you connect to our mobility data backend, we can tell you in advance when the traffic lights will switch from green to orange and to red.
And safe traffic lights, either it's... So what we don't want to do is to think that a green is red. Thinking that a red... Sorry, we don't want to think that a green is red. Exactly. If I stop at a green traffic light, I'm not going to kill a lot of people. If I burn a traffic light, I don't know if it's that word in English, in French at least we say that, we have a real issue. So your connected traffic lights, either they are safe, i.e. there is a huge safety file that we can put into the hands of Ricardo, and they will tell us, yes, it's good enough. And then we will tell, okay, I consume it, I'm very happy. Or it's not safe enough for L4. It's very good for L3, but it's not safe enough for L4. And then I will need another system to confirm that a green is green. A green is green, not to make sure that I'm not considering a red for green. So it's just depending on the level of safety which is behind. And currently there's, I think, only 2 suppliers in the world working on safe traffic light. And it comes with a horrible cost.
Final question. We're running a bit over time, but the question comes from the next speaker. So,
hello, Olivier. I'm very impressed with what you realized together with LRM here. Very impressive. Just a question for my understanding, and that's a perfect introduction for my partner. When you talked about the child's leg, it's 5 centimeters in width.
In width.
That holds already the distance in your description, so the 5 centimeters is already the projection of the width of the leg on the image?
So, I'm definitely not expert as you, so I hope that my answer will fit your need, and if not, please we'll keep on discussing it with the coffee. It's not at any distance that you want to respect these 5 centimeters. It's the way our system works, the shuttle that you all tested, I think, today, and that you will all become an active promoter of course. We know by heart our braking distances. And these braking distances depend on our speed and how many people are on board. We limited you to 11 people, if I remember well today, because we tested it for 17, so we have a huge security margin. And we know what is our braking distances. We take it, we multiply it by 1.3, always security on security on security on security. And this is our no-go zone. If something goes into this no-go zone, if it's above my 5 centimeters, I will brake, and I will brake with a braking distance to make sure that I'm not going to hit. So actually, it's only on the first meters in front of the vehicle that I need to respect these 5 centimeters. It's something like 5 meters when I'm full speed.